Shelley Winter Show, live, local, topical, and relevant, my friends. I have the best news to share with everyone. So ever since I got into radio, as you know, I'm a conservative, African-American conservative. And when I started to find conservatism, because I wasn't always conservative. Well, I was, but I didn't realize it, right? So I grew up in New York City. I voted Democrat, much like the rest of my family and like a lot of people in New York City. And but I always questioned things. And the first question I ever had was when I grew up. I took the train. I took public transportation to school, and I started taking the train to school in 9th grade. Before that, from 5th grade to 8th grade, I took the city bus, and the bus took me downtown. So I got the bus right across the street from my house, got on the bus, and the bus dropped me off right across the street from my house. So I took the New York City Transit bus to school from 5th grade to 8th grade. When I went to 9th grade, I had to take the train. And I would walk to the train throughout high school, all 4 years of high school. And every day I walked to school. I walked to the train to go to school. I would pass a group of people. There was a shoe shine guy who I later realized also he wasn't the shoe shine guy. He was actually the numbers man and kind of the loan shark in the neighborhood, that kind of thing. I never really realized it until I was later on in life. But I always wondered how the shoe shine guy with a shoe shine stand, an old wooden stand, where I never saw anybody ever getting their shoes shined, drove a Cadillac. But it wasn't until later on in life I realized, oh, he's the numbers man. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with that, we have the Georgia Lottery. Well, the numbers is the Georgia Lottery in New York. And the numbers, how you get the numbers, you play 3 numbers. You could play them single, in a box, whatever. And it's the last 3 numbers of the tally or the tally from the horse races, from Aqueduct or Belmont. So let's say the take for the day was 100,453. The number for the day would be 453. And that was the numbers. My grandmother would play the numbers with pennies. Or she would say, the guy would say, Miss Lockhart, she would say, give me 5 cents on 453. And my grandma, across my life when I was a young kid, hit the number probably 2 or 3 times in her life. And it was a big celebration. Not because she needed the money necessarily, but because she won. But he was the numbers guy. And then when I walked around the corner and to get to the train station, there was a kind of a walk-up brownstone. Brownstones are like walk-ups, apartments. And they didn't have elevators, but they're like we call them brownstones. Townhomes, you may call them down here. And there was a family or a group of people, I don't know if they were family, but there were a group of people who sat on this stoop. I would see them going to school, and I would see them coming home, sitting in the same spot. 4 years of high school. Went away to college, came back home for the summer. When I got a summer job, I'd go to the train station, I'd see the same people. Older, but the same people. Playing cards, playing dice, drinking, whatever it was. Eating, whatever it was. Same group of people. Finally got out of college, got my first job. I'm taking the same subway downtown now. And I'll never forget, I got my first check. And they told me what I was going to make per year. And so when I found out what I was going to make per year, I went home, I did the math. I said, okay, I should get this every 2 weeks. And I was all excited. But when my check came, it was a lot less than what I calculated. So I went to my mom, and I said, Mom, I was supposed to be paid this per year. When I calculated every 2 weeks, it came to this amount, but I'm only getting this amount. Where's the rest of my money? And she laughed, and she said, taxes came out of it. And I said, taxes? What are taxes? I kind of knew what taxes were, but, I wanted to get an explanation because now it's my money. Before it was her money. I didn't care. Now it's my money. Like, what are taxes? What do you mean taxes? Where does that money go? Where's that? And she said, the streets, the roads, the police. And then she said something I'll never forget. She said, the people you see on that stoop by the train station? Some of your taxes, some of your salary went to them because they are on welfare. I said, well, wait a minute. I've been seeing those people since I was in high school. You mean they don't work? She said, no. What do you think? They sit there all day. Well, they eat better than I do. Sometime in the summertime, they'd have crab legs, all kinds of seafood. I'm struggling. Half my check is gone. I got to go to McDonald's value meals. They're eating good. And I didn't like that. And that's kind of how I started to realize that I was conservative. And I would see other things. Harlem wasn't the best. There was a lot of violence, a lot of drug dealing, all kinds of stuff going on. Gentrification came in. Bill Clinton moved his offices on 125th Street, and all of a sudden Harlem got better. And I was like, wait a minute, this is not right. Why didn't you fix Harlem when my grandmother had to cover a pocketbook to go to church from the purse snatchers, but now white girls can jog down the street in the middle of the night and they're protected? How is this possible? I realized I was conservative. And I grew more and more. And then at one point, before I moved out of New York down to the South, someone introduced me to Thomas Sowell, and it was on from there. I was a full-fledged conservative. So when I moved here, and I realized I was conservative, I was seeking out other conservatives, particularly African-American conservatives. And there's few and far between. There's not a lot. Tried to go to meetings, there were not many. But there was one guy that I met just a couple years after I moved down here. We've been friends ever since. His name is Bruce Levell. He's been on the show many times. You've seen him on CNN. You've seen him on Newsmax. He's been with President Trump since 2015. Bruce Levell owns a jewelry store up in Perimeter area, Ashwood Dunwoody. One of the few African American owned jewelry stores. Prominent businessman, good family man. Know his whole family, know his son, know his wife. Hung out with him, know him very well. Dear friend and brother. I was always a little upset. I didn't vocalize it to him or anyone else, but I will say it now. I was always a little upset when all the nominations were coming down, all the administrative jobs for the White House and all the administration jobs were coming on. So a little upset because Bruce hadn't been announced yet. And I was mad at that. I didn't say anything. But it upset me. Well, finally, my friend and my brother, Bruce Levell, is finally working for the administration. And let me tell you, sometimes God has a plan. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. All the time, God has a plan. Because my brother, Bruce Levell, quite possibly is being put into the best position for him. He's going to be the director of public-private partnerships at the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And he's going to be the director of public-private partnerships with the USDA. And when you think about it, the patience paid off. Because I was mad. I didn't say anything, but I was getting upset. But the patience has paid off. Because our guy is the director of public-private partnerships at the USDA. My good friend, my brother, a guy I've known pretty much since I moved to this city. And I was seeking out African-American conservatives, particularly men, good, strong men, to mentor me and to follow. And Bruce Levell has been finally recognized for the hard work that he put in 15 and in 20 and just now in 2024. He is now the director of public-private partnerships at the USDA. And I couldn't be more happy for my friend, Bruce Levell. Congratulations, my friend. Well done. It's the Shelley Winter Show. We'll be right back.